Let's talk about what your tactics are now, because as I've said, you and Nawaz Sharif are sending your video links back into Pakistan,
Sure.
sometimes to thousands of people, demanding an early end to the Imran Khan government. And this is what, just a month ago, Nawaz Sharif said to thousands of people in Punjab. He said that the integrity of the army chief, General Qamar Javed Bajwa, had disappeared. He said that the general was responsible for levering him out of office and rigging 2018, as you've said. Quote, this is what Nawaz Sharif said. You, directly to the general, the chief of the army, he said, you packed up our government and you put the nation at the altar of your own wishes. You rejected the people's choice in elections and installed an inefficient, incapable group leading to economic catastrophe. What an extraordinary thing to say of your country's chief of army.
It's a reality. The buck stops at the top. And the deep state is known what deep state does in Pakistan. I mean, is it a surprise to you, Mr. Sekhar? It is known to the world. As Hillary Clinton the other day just gave an interview. And she said, what is deep state? Quoting Pakistan as an example. So please, we must be fair to analyze things. The election was stolen. It started off from Dawn leaks. Mr. Sharif has been struggling for the supremacy of democracy, for the supremacy of parliament, and I have been struggling for the fiscal and discipline and the transparency. Is it wrong? I mean, UK has been upholding the democracy and the democratic values. We would think that you would be supporting us.
So let us be clear. You are saying that the Pakistani military, the army in particular, are subverting all democratic processes in your country. Is that what you're saying?
This is the global reports. I mean, it's not...
No, I want to be clear what you're saying.
Well,
because the Pakistani people will be listening to this interview and you are condemning the military of your own country as subverting your democracy.
It's not the military. I think we have to talk about the individuals. It's not all the entire institution. I think let's create a difference. It's the wish list, it's the plan of certain people who enforce in Pakistan martial law.
So you're saying the army is led by General Bajwa, who in yours and Nawaz Sharif's opinion is entirely subverting democracy. Is that what you're saying?
Well, I think
I want to be clear.
Let's re-articulate. What we are saying, that if the elections were rigged, it is now established without any ray of doubt. So if the elections were rigged and somebody has been planned, it's not we, it is the Interior Minister of Pakistan gave a statement that if Mr. Sharif had not got problem with the deep state and the institutions, he would have been fourth-time Prime Minister. Why would he say it?
So let me be clear. You're now alleging that this is entirely unacceptable when your erstwhile boss and your very close ally, Nawaz Sharif, was working hand in glove with Pakistan's military dictator, General Zia, for many years. And suddenly he's decided that the military and the way they interfere in politics in Pakistan is entirely unacceptable. What kind of hypocrisy is that?
No, I disbelieve this analysis. Frankly speaking, I disagree with you.
Well, what bit of what I've just said is wrong?
Maybe evolution process. Maybe evolution process.
Evolution process?
Yeah, because
you mean because then he was in power and now he's out of power, so he's really angry with the army because they won't work with him.
No, it's not the first time. It's the third time he was Prime Minister. And Imran Khan, own Interior Minister, tells the whole world that Mr. Sharif would have been fourth-time Prime Minister if he had not got trouble with the establishment.
You see, Imran Khan may be unpopular in Pakistan now, but when he heard what Nawaz Sharif said last month at that rally, when he directly targeted the chief of army, Imran Khan said this. He said, how dare Nawaz Sharif point to the general and blame him for what is happening in Pakistan when for years Mr. Nawaz Sharif polished the boots of a former military dictator. When Imran Khan said that, I dare say he actually had a great deal of sympathy from many Pakistanis who know hypocrisy when they see it.
I think you probably haven't seen his 21 clips, how he has been maligning the military army chief, the intelligence services of Pakistan. And not too long before, it's just last year when he was in the United States, he gave a statement that it is the ISI, our intelligence service, which actually was responsible for the Osama bin Laden and its killing, etc., etc. So I think when he was out of power, when he was in opposition, he had given 21 different statements at different times. He was known as Taliban Khan. I mean, I don't know. Are we talking or wish to discuss his performance and our performance? Are we here to talk whether it is a pure democracy or is it an anocracy?
You and other opposition elements have created this Pakistan democratic movement. You want to deliver early elections and see Imran booted out of power, but many people, even in your own movement, are now backing away from this targeting of the Pakistani military. For example, Bilawal Bhutto said it was regrettable that Nawaz Sharif had named the military chief by name, and even Mr. Sharif's own daughter Mariam had to stress at great length that she was not anti-military. It sounds like Nawaz Sharif has overstepped the mark.
I think there seems to be a confusion. Mr. Nawaz Sharif as Prime Minister or otherwise is not anti-military. Please, let's be very clear. He blames certain individuals, and as I said, the buck stops at the top. If the Dawn leaks were there, there's a huge history about that. I'm sure you will be privy to Dawn leaks. It relates to FATF, it relates to Pakistan going back to grey, which we brought out from grey and it was white. So I think, if Mr. Sharif talks of certain interventions which are against the oath, against the constitution of Pakistan, is something wrong?
Let's talk about politics and your message to your own people. We know that Pakistani people are suffering right now. Food price inflation is soaring. COVID-19 is seeing a second surge in your country, creating real economic difficulties. There's going to be barely any growth in the Pakistan economy this year. In the midst of all of that, you are creating a new level of political instability, demanding that Imran call early elections, calling him illegitimate, banging on about the vote rigging, claiming that the army is really in power. Do you think that your approach is really helping the interests of the Pakistani people?
I think you have to be neutral umpire, Mr. Sekar, for a moment. 2014, we won the election 2013, massive majority, 2/3 almost. 2014, when Mr. Imran Khan comes to agitate for 4 constituencies rigged only, his claim, nobody spoke.
Yeah, Mr. Dar, you're going back now. You're going back 6 years, and I'm putting myself in the shoes of a Pakistani today who sees rising food prices, political instability, geopolitical instability, and he wonders whether the opposition sitting in London, yourself and Mr. Nawaz Sharif, really have the interests of ordinary Pakistani people at heart.
We have interests of Pakistani people at heart, and that's why we are moving. This country had witnessed double revenue collection in our tenure of 5 years, lowest inflation, lowest interest rates, best performing stock market in the South Asia, most stable currency, highest GDP growth in 11 years, 5.8%. I mean, it's all music. Your Western, the institutions had all the praise. And what was the final report in 2016? PricewaterhouseCoopers, what did it say? Pakistan is going to join G20 by 2030. And we were striving to bring it even earlier. And we were very clearly hoping that since we had ended the load shedding, we had fought the extremism and terrorism in Pakistan, we had improved the macroeconomic indicators in Pakistan, and all praises, all. So now
I understand. I'm not suggesting that your personal economic record was bad. In some ways, it was good. But listen, I'm just trying to get you to respond to a simple question. Pakistan is where it is today. Hang on. Imran Khan has a 5-year mandate. He won the election. Now you have a choice. You have a choice. You can wait to fight the next election if you choose to go home, frankly, but at the moment you're still in London. You can either fight at the ballot box during the next election, or you can try to undermine Imran Khan and his government from the sidelines, from here in London, and thereby create new economic and political instability. Is that the choice you've made?
No, it's not a matter of political instability. It's a matter of incompetence. It's a matter of non-performance. It's a matter of ruining and grounding the economy of Pakistan in 2 years before Corona. Mind you, after 1952, Pakistan first time had seen negative GDP growth. After 1952, from 5.8%, first year 1.9%, this year 0.4% negative. And There's a massive unemployment. We pulled 6% people out of poverty. He has pushed back 6% people in the poverty line. He promised to give 10 million jobs. He has made people unemployed, 12 million added to the unemployment numbers.
Pakistan's in big trouble. I just wonder whether your approach is weakening Pakistan on the world stage. You recently tweeted, hang on, you recently tweeted a message saying that Imran Khan, and I'm going to quote your words, personified fascism. Now, Imran Khan has stood up for Pakistan's interests in a very tough stand against India and Mr. Modi, which you well know. He has also conducted a foreign policy which sees deepening economic ties with China, which is precisely the same policy that you followed. He also is trying to use Pakistan's influence, it seems, to bring the Taliban to the peace table in Afghanistan. What is it about these policies that you think personifies fascism?
Well, I think that perhaps you haven't studied or you haven't had the time to look into what fascism he's doing.
You stand by that?
Yeah, of course I do. I do. There is a fascist government in Pakistan as of now.
You're trying to mobilize tens of thousands of people on the streets in different Pakistani cities, even when there's a COVID pandemic. Your message is that we must bring Imran Khan's government down by the middle of the year and have new elections. You haven't succeeded so far. What's your next move?
Well, Mr. Sekhar, I think you haven't seen Mr. Imran Khan during the same, you see, the PDM gatherings started from 16th of October. You haven't seen
the democratic movement gatherings, yes.
But you haven't seen in the same period, in the last 6 weeks, you haven't seen the gatherings, the large gatherings of Mr. Imran Khan himself. COVID would not spread.
What is your next move?
Well, our ultimate aim and our ultimate goal is supremacy of democracy in Pakistan, the free and fair election, which should be transparent and should be acceptable to the world observers.
And presumably the rule of law.
And the rule of law.
So will you go home to face the rule of law?
Of course I will. Rule of law and transparency. And the constitution has to be, all institution has to work within the domain which has been prescribed in the Constitution of Islamic Republic of Pakistan. I think we'll be very happy. So right now when I tweeted, I have no regret, and it is the ground reality. I mean, I can give you, a prime minister who calls the Director General of the Federal Investigation Agency and gives them names and says go and arrest them. I mean, what sort of governance this is?
Well, we have to end it there, but I do thank you very much indeed for coming into the Hardtalk studio.
It's a pleasure.
Ishaq Dar, thanks very much.
It's a pleasure. Many thanks.